Good morning, Brian. It's Charlie.
Hey, Charlie. Sorry for the extra excitement. I'm not used to taking these phone calls on the air. This is only our second day, and I appreciate you calling in.
Well, I'm happy to do it. I can pretty much make out what you're saying. There's a little bit of an echo, but I think I can make it out.
Well, we were told that yesterday, so we'll just power through it. Mr. Parris, we're speaking with Mr. Charlie Parris, Commission Chair of Gilmer County. And Mr. Parris, you completed your first month as the chairman of Gilmer County. Can you briefly give me and the citizens of Gilmer County a little highlight of what's going on in that office?
Yeah, it's been a pretty hectic month, but of course I was expecting that, particularly the first week while we were getting ready for the work sessions and the meeting. But I think that we've made a good bit of progress. I guess the big thing is the Economic Development Authority and the Joint Development Authority with the two cities. We have approved that. The county has approved that at our first meeting, and now the city of LJ has approved it. So we're hopeful that the city of East LJ will approve it fairly quickly now, and that we can have that Joint Development Authority in place and actually start moving on doing something about increasing revenue for the county and the cities, and bringing some much needed jobs and business into Gilmer County. So we're pretty excited about that. Been quite a bit going on with Parks and Rec. I had a walkthrough there last Monday with, or a week ago from yesterday, with the Jody Cantrell and a couple of members of the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. And what we did was we just took our pads of paper, started at one end, and just walked to the other end, making lists of everything that needed to be repaired, replaced, whatever. It turned out to be a pretty long list by the time we got through with it. And I'm planning the same thing for this coming Saturday. I'm trying to get some volunteers. I'd like to do the exact same thing, only instead of having the Parks and Rec folks, I want to have parents and coaches and so forth that we can just meet out there and, again, start at one end, go all the way to the other end, and from their perspective, make a list of what needs to be fixed and replaced and so forth. Really enthusiastic about that. It's one of those things that's really obvious that, it's not going to be a quick fix. I mean, it's not going to be a 2 or 3 month thing, but once we get these lists compiled and prioritized, we can, there will be things that we can do right away and other things that we can do fairly quickly, and, we want to prioritize and get working on that. Work coming on very well on the Clear Creek ball fields. We should be starting on the concession stand this week. Fences are in progress. I have asked Lori Garrett, our project manager on that, to include batting cages up there, which is something that wasn't in the original plan, but there are quite a few people who seem to want that. And relative to the project, it's not a very large investment, and now would be the time to do it. So Lori's going to be incorporating batting cages into the new Clear Creek ball fields. We managed a little bit of a reorganization of the county workforce. We have combined the solid waste and the roads and the airport into one department, Public Works. We have combined the fire and EMS into Public Safety. That really didn't represent anything of a change except just on paper, because all the same people are in place there. And we have combined the Parks and Rec and the golf course, which will be under one Parks and Rec department head, and that position is currently open. So we're looking to get some efficiencies there and to hopefully be able to generate more work from the same amount of folks. We're on board with the snack bar at the golf course for an early March to mid-March opening. Very happy to see the progress on that. I asked David Clark yesterday to start work on the lease that we could approve in our meeting coming up here next week. So that is pretty much of a done deal, and we're really happy to see that.
So are you telling us that actually a golfer may possibly be able to get a hot dog this spring.
Yeah,
that was mean. I shouldn't say that. So, okay.
Yeah, we're hopeful that he can get himself a hot dog. Or,
okay.
Yeah, my personal favorite, the Zion Hill sandwich. But anyway, one of the big things that we've done is that we started the process to refund the 2007 general obligation bonds, and that we selected a financial organization at our last meeting for that, and that activity is underway. It's one of those things where you really never know until you actually pull the trigger on it how much you can save, and financial folks just kind of turn purple when you actually ask them that, because they don't want to commit to it, because it's dependent on the interest rates of the day, and those things fluctuate pretty wildly. But our best guess on that is that we have a potential savings there from 1.5 to 1.9 million on those bonds, and so we're anxious to get started on that and hopefully be able to complete that before the interest rates start rising again. Did have a few surprises. The $171,400 fine from the Department of Revenue, I guess, would be the big one. We have appealed that, and we're going to try to do what we can to do anything but write a $171,400 check to them. So right now we're sort of at their mercy, and we're going to try to work that out. So it's been a busy first month, and but I think we've got a lot accomplished, and I'm real proud of what's been done.
Well, could I say, after listening to that, Mr. Parris, you spent a good portion of the month doing organizational and streamlining. Has that been some of the biggest focus you've had throughout the month, is getting some things organized so they will streamline and be more efficient? Or would I be correct in saying that?
Yes, that was an objective from way before we all actually even got sworn in, back when we could all talk to each other. We had a number of conversations on how we could streamline things and make things work more effectively. Of course, now one of the biggest problems that I've got, or at least one of the hardest things to get used to, is that I can't just pick up the phone and give Dallas or Travis a call anymore. But back when we could talk, we had some lengthy conversations about that, and I think it's working out pretty much the way we hoped it would. So, of course, it's only been a month, and the jury's still out on it, but we'll see how that goes.
Well, let me ask you quickly on several of the things you brought up. I want to move on to a couple bills under the Gold Dome down in Atlanta that may affect local counties, so I want to save time for that. But when you mentioned economic development, I know you put out a number, and you've been open with us, and you told us exactly how that 130, if I remember right, of a budget for that position was broke down. I think 40 of it was coming from the cities. When you say Ellijay has committed, how do you know when they're going to break down their portion of the cost?
Well, we don't know that yet, and when I say they've committed, what they've done is they've committed to the Joint Development Authority. It's possible to actually create the Joint Development Authority without necessarily having the funding in place. We're looking at that as two separate things. So the cities are still working out the funding. I don't really know. I wish I could give you a good timeline for when we might know more about that, but I don't have that right now. It's pretty much between the two cities, and I'm trying to sort of keep my nose out of it. But it's a question of how it gets divvied up. I've asked them for $40,000. I think that's a fair amount, particularly considering that probably 90+% of anything that we can bring into Gilmer County is going to end up within the boundaries of one of those two cities. So hopefully they'll be able to work out how they're going to split that up, and once they do that, then we can go ahead and get started. We know that we're not going to be able to do anything at least first quarter, other than get the structure in place. So if we could have that worked out and have funding in place and be able to start have a search committee start searching for an economic development director in the second quarter, early second quarter. That would be a timeline that I would really like to see.
On the economic development, raising revenue was big on economic development when you guys discussed that, is getting revenue to come into the county. So is economic development, is that one of the reasons why you're putting such a emphasis on the park and rec side also, is that could be potential revenue to the county that you're looking at?
Well, the parks and revenue, the parks and rec really is a sort of a twofold purpose there. We do believe that we can bring a significant amount of revenue into the county with improvements and changes out in parks and rec, especially once the Clear Creek fields are online. But at the same time, even if we were looking for no revenue whatsoever, we have many people in this county, I would say a majority of them in this county, who have children, grandchildren, who need access to the activities out there at Parks and Rec, and who want a nice and safe place to play. And it's really important, I believe, to the people of Gilmer County that we provide that for them. So we're looking at two things. We'd like to bring in some revenue with it, but either way, we've got to get something out there that the people here can be proud of and can enjoy.
Okay, Mr. Parris, let's move quickly. What time we have left? House Bill 170, if we can move there, being the Transportation Funding Act of 2015. Tell me and my listeners and viewers, if our viewers here at FetcherNews.com, and if you just tuned in, we're talking to Commission Chair, Gilmer County, Charlie Parris. So, and we'll have this up later today so you can hear the entire interview. Mr. Parris, on the Transportation Funding Act of 2015, have you had a chance to read that, and could you share with us your thoughts on how that affects local government?
Yeah, I've read it several times, and unfortunately it doesn't change from one time to the next. I'm not impressed, let's say. This is going to be, I think it's fair to say it would be a disaster for Gilmer County. And from the comments that I'm hearing from around the state, I think there's an awful lot of other counties that feel that exact same way. There are a couple of issues in here, and I understand. I'm being told that, you know, this is just a starting point. I guess my problem is I really hate to see this as even a starting point. If you just go right down through it, there's a couple of sort of objectionable things before you even get to Gilmer County. For those folks who went out and bought themselves an electric car in order to be more green and save themselves some gasoline money and so forth, they're going to be hit with a registration fee of $200 for non-commercial or $300 for commercial, and that amount is going to be indexed every year by multiplying it in against the rise and drop of the construction price index. So it's unlikely it's ever going to come down. That amount's probably going to continue to go up. One thing that bothers me in here, and this is something I haven't heard a whole lot of people talk about, and I'm going to be honest with you and say I missed it every time I read it until it was pointed out to me last night. There's a section on there that says, sales of motor fuel other than gasoline, purchased for purposes other than propelling motor vehicles on public highways, shall be fully subject to the taxes levied or imposed by this article. And a little further digging will verify that propane is something that would qualify there. And so the question I have is, does this mean that these additional taxes are going to be levied against the propane that we're putting into our homes? So I don't have any other information than that. That's something I'm just sort of getting to look at now. As I say, it was pointed out to me last night, and it just was a big caution flag. But getting down to what it's going to do for Gilmer County, basically it's going to take the current 7.5% of excise tax and up that to 29.2 cents per gallon. Now, when they do that, they're going to eliminate any sales tax coming from SPLOST, LOST, or eSPLOST. Gilmer County gets 3 pennies on a dollar from those taxes, and these are taxes that we voted to impose on ourselves. so that we can have this revenue coming in to help us out financially here in our own home county. What's going to happen is that 3 cents on the dollar will be folded into this 29.2 cent increase in the excise tax, and it's all going to go to the state of Georgia. So while there won't be necessarily a sales tax anymore, that 3 cents on the dollar is still going to be there in that gallon of gas. And the only real difference is going to be, instead of Gilmer County citizens that are paying it getting the use of it, it's going to go to the state of Georgia. I have a bit of a problem with that. Now, I believe that the folks there at the legislature understood that it was going to hurt the county, so as a sort of a, I guess, token gesture, if you want to call it that, they've said, well, you know, you can impose a 3 cents per gallon tax without a referendum. Just get your commissioners together and vote on it, and there you are, 3 cents tax, 3 cents a gallon tax increase. Well, that's not a solution. I mean, that is a tax increase, and we can go up to another 3 cents if we want to put out a referendum, have people vote on it. So
I seen that in the bill. I seen that in the bill. So where I seen in the bill, it said 6 cents. So it'll allow the local county to go with 6 cents. 3 you could do without a referendum. The citizens don't vote. You guys could get together and vote, and next thing you know, there's 3 cents.
Yeah.
But then there's the other 3 cents you could ask the citizens to vote on. So truly, are you telling me it could turn into 6 cents?
It could turn into a 6 cents per gallon tax increase, and the other side to that is that's still not going to generate, since this is a cents per gallon and not a percentage per gallon per dollar, it still would not generate an amount equal to what would be lost to the state. So, you know, our choices are we can impose 6 cents a gallon on ourselves and still lose money, you know, or we can do nothing and just lose even more money. And that even is going to be adjusted yearly. They've got a formula out there that they're going to take the average miles per gallon of the new vehicles years, compare that against the base year of 2014, and whatever the difference is, they're going to multiply that by the construction price index. And so basically their part of that 29.2 cents is going to continue to go up and up and up. So it's you know, kind of a bad deal all around. Now, I understand where they're coming from. I understand that they have a problem. And when they say we've got to do something, I understand that. You know, we're in the same situation economically where we've got to do something. What really bothers me is, you know, Speaker of the House Ralston was quoted in an HAC article as saying, he said, this plan will provide more than $1 billion annually in new transportation dollars. It does not result in an increase of state taxes on Georgians. Everywhere you look where they're talking about this bill, you see that. This will not represent an increase of state taxes. Well, no, it won't. What they're not saying is it's going to represent an increase in local taxes. They're taking the easy way out, let's say. They're saying we're going to take your money, and I'm sorry, I'm being too blunt, I know, but basically, to me, in my opinion, they're saying we're going to take your money, and we're going to tout this as us generating $1 billion with no new state taxes. And oh, by the way, you're going to get to raise your taxes locally on your people, and good luck with that. I got a problem with that.
Well, let me ask you a question, because it is 7:40. I've got 10 minutes. I'm supposed to call Senator Gooch, Steve Gooch. So let me wrap up or try to close some things up here. Mr. Parris, have you spoke to Speaker Ralston? Have you spoke to Senator Gooch? I mean, as the chairman, have you spoke to any of the other county chairman, commissioners, or chair? Have you spoke to any other counties concerning this, local counties around you? Have you picked up the phone and talked to any of the other ladies or guys? Have you picked up the phone and called the Speaker's office, Steve Gooch? Have you had any communication outside of locally?
I have communicated with a number of other county officials. This has been by email. We've got a little email trying to go in there on this. I have not spoken to Speaker Ralston, that is on my schedule for today. Actually, it was on my schedule for yesterday, but it got a little too hectic, and that got bumped to today. So,
other. Sorry to interrupt, sir, but when you say email, not to name any of them, obviously not to name any of them, but in the email loop that's going around with some other local officials, county or city, do they share the same concerns you have?
Yes, every single one, universally, share the concerns that I have, and they're all going to be affected. In fact, many of them are going to be affected much more than we are. I know one of them is quoting that it's going to cost them $8 million. Of course, $8 million to them is probably, like the $1 million to us. But, yeah, they're all going to be affected. And I should mention one thing, too, and this is something that sort of came from some of these email communications, that I did put a last-minute adjustment on to the agenda for our work session and meetings for next week to allow us to discuss and vote on a county resolution to Senator Gooch and to Speaker Ralston to tell them that we are very much opposed to this and ask them to reconsider this type of a solution.
Well, I don't want to leave without one more, Mr. Parris. Thank you so much for being open with the citizens of Gilmer County on where the county would stand with the transportation bill of 2015. But I don't want to leave real quick. You also have on there reviewing pending action of HB 14. So in just a couple brief minutes, tell our listeners and viewers HB 14. I've talked about it, and I've told every city official and everybody they need to look at it. Tell us real quick why you have HB 14 on the workshop to discuss.
HB 14 is essentially the state of Georgia, our legislators telling us that no county, no city, no school board within the state can accept a federal grant without having it an express act of the General Assembly to vote on and approve it. So if we go out and get ourselves a federal grant, we can't, if we get it awarded, we can't accept it until the state legislature votes to allow us to accept it. Now, there are a couple of big problems for that to me, even over and above the fact that the state of Georgia shouldn't be dictating what we can or can't do with federal grants. But one thing is that the legislature only meets 40 days a year, or 44. What happens the rest of the year? If we get ourselves a federal grant, let's say in March, what happens? Well, what happens is the money that comes in will go to the state and be kind of socked back into an account and sit there until the next January, February, when the legislature is in session. And at that point, they'll vote on whether or not we can get that money that's been sitting there for up to a year, depending on when you get it. If they vote yes, then they'll go ahead and send it to you. If they vote no, they'll send it back to the feds. That, in my mind, is a tremendous problem. The other thing is that there is an awful lot of potential, in my opinion, for abuse here. If you have a state senator or a representative that gets crossways with the leadership up there, and their county has got some pending funds, what are the odds that those funds are going to become an issue? Ideally, the answer to that would be no, but in the political world, I've got a feeling that answer is yes. So it's just, in my mind, it's just a horrible, horrible bill. I understand that the original reason for it was because some counties were accepting some grants that had strings that were pretty much unacceptable and giving the feds too much control here. That is a problem, and that's something that counties need to be very careful of. But a solution such as saying, well, we're just not going to let any county do anything that we don't approve in advance, that's just way overkill. I just don't see it.
Well, Mr. Parris, I want to tell you how much we appreciate you talking to us this morning in such such a great interview. We appreciate that, and it's 7:46. I've got to call State Senator Steve Gooch in 4 minutes, but I want to say for the citizens of Gilmer County out there listening, you've been listening to Chairman Charlie Paris, and we appreciate you talking about the state of the county and what all you have entered into in the past month in the organization and streamlining and economic development and park and rec. So we're excited about that, and I know our listeners out there are also excited that you're taking interest and paying attention to the bills that are going on under the Gold Dome down there in Atlanta during session that would affect people here, citizens in Gilmer County. So, Mr. Paris, we want to thank you very much. You're welcome to come back anytime and talk to us. And as you read these bills and take notes, be prepared to come back and share your new findings. And you did say, you said you had plans to try to speak to Speaker Ralston. So you know what I wrote down. I wrote down a reminder to call you and ask you how that went.
That'll be fine, Brian.
Hey, Mr. Paris, you have a nice day. And again, thank you for calling, and we'll do this again real soon.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.